Hey everyone, Vortex here, and today I'm going to be theorizing about the events prior to the Great Flood. I'll be joined by GameOver Jesse, who will help me narrate this theory. The Great Flood is the event that happened sometime after Ocarina of Time. The seal that bound Ganondorf to the Sacred Realm was broken, and darkness covered the lands once again. The legends that survived the flood speak of the absence of the time-traveling hero. The people, in their final hour, turned their prayers towards the goddesses, who in turn chose to sink the kingdom beneath the waves. With the passing of time, the remnants of the Kingdom of Hyrule vanished from memory, its king, however, still bound to the ruins, forever lamenting the decisions that led up to the loss of his kingdom. The hero of time not appearing during the Great Flood is not what sealed Hyrule's fate though, it was the king himself. The hero that everyone longed for was long gone. The princess, in an attempt to rewrite history and undo her ill-informed decisions, sent the hero of time back to relive his childhood, leaving her own timeline devoid of a hero. The Triforce of Courage that the hero wielded was shattered into pieces, as its wielder no longer existed.
The Triforce is bound to the foundation of the world. While it can be physically moved between dimensions, it cannot be removed and taken to an era that already contains the same Triforce. Its divine time-bending properties do not allow this paradox to exist.
The worthiness to wield the Triforce, however, can transcend time. Child Link is granted the Triforce of Courage the moment he is taken back to his original timeline. With the remaining relic incomplete, it vanished from the Sacred Realm and bestowed itself upon its destined wielders, power for Ganondorf and wisdom for the young princess. Its wielders remained unaware of this until their time of need would arise. Many years after the banishment of evil, the seal on the Sacred Realm began to weaken for unknown reasons. Fell winds began to blow. This frigid wind is a symbol of change. It sweeps away the old and brings the new. But the wind that began to blow across the kingdom brought an omen of disaster soon to come. The seal keeping Ganondorf locked in the Sacred Realm diminished over time. Ganondorf seized this opportunity to finally break free of his prison. The threat that he uttered right after being exiled, that he would harm the descendants of the chosen hero and the Princess of Destiny, would finally be at hand. The curse of the mice calls for a hero and a maiden of destiny to come forth once an incarnation of evil threatens the land of Hyrule. Even time itself is bound to this very principle, meaning the rise of evil is anticipated and two children of destiny are born into this world. This assures that they will have become of age as soon as the land is in need of their strength. Therefore, it does not matter if a previous hero is killed, or in the case of the Hero of Time, removed from the timeline altogether. The spirit of the hero is not a unique soul. It's more like a universal law that states that a certain person with certain traits must be born in order to confront evil. This is also why different heroes can exist at the same time.
As was dictated, a hero did indeed rise around the same time of the flood. He went through all of the trials that made him a hero, and even gathered the remains of the Triforce of Courage, but he was not recognized as the hero of legends. To the king, only the hero of time was considered the savior of Hyrule.
The king is shown throughout the game to act based on beliefs he holds about the world, beliefs which are constantly proven to be wrong. The legendary hero, the one he believed could only be the same time-traveling youth from Legends, could in fact appear as a different boy altogether. The legends surrounding the Hero of Time have existed since the birth of Hyrule. Sheik mentions at some point during Ocarina of Time that you, while wielding the Master Sword, greatly resemble the Hero of Time from Legends, a hero whose arrival had been foretold for centuries, long before the boy who could travel through time was even born. How is it possible for such a legend to exist if it's not based on an existing hero? Well, it turns out the legend is based on a previous hero, the chosen hero from Skyward Sword. The chosen hero, during his journey, was forced to travel to the past to prevent the mice from seizing the world, thereby changing history, yet at the same time not changing history. The events that had taken place and that were yet to happen were predestined. To illustrate this, Zelda can be seen sealed when you first enter the sacred grounds, long before you actually experience this in the game itself. Likewise, during the first meeting with Impa, she can be seen wearing the bracelet that Zelda had given to her at the end of the game. Everything was destined to happen. Our role was merely to ensure that it would. The knowledge regarding the hero who could overcome time itself became legend safeguarded by the Sheikah and the royal family.
It is not surprising that the King of Hyrule was under the impression that the legendary hero of time's sole purpose was to travel through time to aid wherever he was needed. It had not occurred to him that this hero was simply one of the many heroes that rose from humble beginnings to put an end to the evil that threatened their land.
That is why he rejected the existence of the hero of the flood. This boy was not the hero of time, therefore he was not the legendary hero he was specifically looking for, and that train of thought spelled the end of Hyrule. The hero of the flood worked diligently to recover the Triforce of Courage and to awaken the sages required to power the Master Sword. His efforts, however, were in vain. The hero fell.
As the hero had fallen, Ganondorf was able to wreak havoc upon Hyrule. Not even the might of the king could prevent Ganondorf from laying siege to the beautiful kingdom. The people prayed that the legendary hero of time, the one that had been their savior in ancient times, would resurface to save them once again. But the hero of time did not appear. The boy who could travel across time no longer existed in this particular timeline. And the boy that had inherited his heroic traits had fallen in battle.
The king, left with no other choice, decided to appeal directly to the gods, hoping that they would come bring salvation. He made a decision he would come to regret. He used the Triforce. The king, when praying, aims his words directly to the golden goddesses as he speaks. He did this both times he asked the goddesses to seal Ganondorf. The king believes the Triforce to be a medium between himself and the goddesses. He prayed to the gods, "Please help us. Ganondorf must be sealed or he will kill us all." His prayers were heard, but his wish was not fulfilled in the way he had intended. The seal placed on Ganondorf was performed with the very power Ganondorf hoped to command, the Triforce. In the end, the goddesses did not intervene simply because the people asked them to. Hyrule was flooded because it was wished for. Right before the goddesses inflicted penance upon Ganondorf, the Triforce of Courage was shattered into 8 pieces by the king. Since the hero had fallen, it no longer belonged to any being upholding the virtue of courage. If Ganondorf somehow managed to free himself of his fate, the Triforce of Courage would be ripe for the taking. The goddesses demand natural order of the world, a world governed by the Triforce. The goddesses had intended for each wielder to craft their own fate, whether good or evil. This balance could not exist if one wielder of the Triforce was allowed to lay hands on the full relic without facing the other destined wielders if his heart was unbalanced. Thus, the gods instructed the king to shatter the remaining Triforce pieces and hide them until those that embodied their virtues would re-emerge.
The king, using his magic, scattered the remnants of the Triforce of Courage across his kingdom. The only clues he left behind for their location were the Triforce charts. These charts were drawn and hidden to stop anyone without a courageous heart from assembling it.
The king broke his own Triforce of Wisdom into half. One half would go to his daughter, the Princess Zelda, while he kept the other half. He sent his daughter and royal servants to the highest mountaintops of Hyrule so they could live on. The Triforce of Power was once again sealed with Ganondorf. All this was intended to keep the full Triforce out of reach, until destiny called once again.
A select few subjects of the kingdom were informed by the goddesses to flee the higher land. The king and Ganondorf stayed behind, watching how Hyrule rapidly disappeared beneath the waves. The flooding of Hyrule, in a single stroke, changed the face of the world in a way that no one could anticipate. The neighboring lands of Labrina, Holodrum, and the countless islands scattered across the world were all swallowed by the waves. As Hyrule became buried under the torrential downpour, the remains of the castle became locked in time with Ganondorf's monstrous army.
And the king, in his eternal sorrow, slept beneath the waves.
Many years passed and the existence of Hyrule vanished from memory. To ensure that no one would accidentally stumble upon the lost kingdom, the goddesses instructed the lesser god Valu to alter the forms of his new subordinates.
Many centuries after the initial flood, Ganondorf was able to circumvent the seal binding him to Hyrule. He was not able to break the seal placed on his minions by the Master Sword, however, and thus had to bide his time on the surface. He intended to reunite the Triforce and reconquer what was left of Hyrule. His malevolent intentions had caused a new incarnation of the chosen hero and the Princess of Destiny to be born many years before, so they would be ready to face him when the time was right.
Immediately after returning to the surface, Ganondorf laid his eyes upon the sages who dedicated their life to uphold the Master Sword's ability to banish evil. He took the life of the praying sages to erase the sword's power. He was aware that the incarnation of the Hero of Time would soon emerge.
As evil attempted to lay hands on the power locked in Hyrule once again, the spirit of the king awoke from his slumber by order of the goddesses. The Triforce of Power was not allowed to reign without facing its counterparts. The king was tasked with finding the children of destiny. The king, in an attempt to conceal his identity, possessed a small red boat known as the King of Red Lions. Under the guise of his new identity, he began his search for the Hero of Time and the descendant of the daughter that he sent to the surface. The king, who still foolishly believes that he was instructed with finding the legendary Hero of Time, searched the world for someone matching this description. But he could not. There was, however, one boy who seemed to possess great courage. The king was not fully convinced that this boy could be the hero that he had been looking for. Thus, the Hero of Winds had to prove himself through countless trials until he eventually possessed the Triforce of Courage.
The king, after Link obtains the Triforce, finally realizes that the legendary hero can take many shapes. The child he saw before him long ago shared the same courage and determination as the Hero of Winds, but he did not see it. He vowed not to repeat his errors.
After returning to the Sunken Kingdom, the Chosen Ones of Destiny are reunited once more. Ganondorf mocks the decisions of the king. He mocks how the gods flooded the lands he sought after, just to stop him. He, much like the King of Hyrule, is bound to the past. He cannot let go of what could have been. While the king regrets not being able to prevent the fall of his kingdom, Ganondorf regrets not having been given a chance to reign Hyrule in the way he had envisioned.
He intends to break the bonds that were forged by fate.
When Ganondorf realizes that he has finally fulfilled a destiny that had been haunting him for so long, he mentions again that the wind is blowing. This wind brings the message of change. Hyrule will vanish beneath the waves. The spirits of old no longer shackled to the past, no longer bound to a dying kingdom. But this is not where the story will end. A new world and a new life will be built from the ashes of old. So in short, the King of Hyrule, in his misguided intentions, directly caused the demise of Hyrule. He did not acknowledge the hero of his era and prayed to the Triforce in an attempt to plead with the gods to save his kingdom. But instead of simply sealing Ganondorf back into the Sacred Realm, the Triforce caused the kingdom to be buried underneath a torrential downpour. A select few individuals were warned ahead of time. The king sent his daughter and his servants to safety and gave the princess half of the Triforce of Wisdom. The Triforce of Courage was broken into 8 pieces and hidden across the kingdom. Ganondorf and the king were sealed beneath the waves, until one day, Ganondorf managed to circumvent the seal, setting the events of the Wind Waker in motion.